So many lessons within that, and many illustrations from this very profound story about the donkey and the well, which is about how we're always receiving troubles, we're always receiving rubbish from other people, and people are always tending to throw us in the well. You don't need you anymore. And then other people can throw rubbish on them as well, but you can use that to step up. This lesson, or this Dharma teaching, was all about transforming the suffering, the salt that we get. One of the other stories, that if we expand our mind, it doesn't matter how much of the salt goes in there. But if we have our mind in like a little cup, then life gets very bitter and very torturous by the self-reference, by me, I. And we make it much worse. Or if we underestimate ourselves with a very, very low self-worth and just put ourselves down, that we're not really worth anything. That story was also very touching. How the Father, which we can see as the Buddha, comes along and shows us that actually, no, you have a huge palace, you have a huge environment that you can inherit through changing this view. But if you just think, I'm worthless, I'm small, I'm nobody, that's often the way we treat ourselves, like the young boy. As he grew up and matured, he inherited the world. Or in the other case with the Brahmin who had the spell to make jewels come from the sky and saw that even if that happens, people will misuse it and then they'll destroy each other through all of that. That's a very good story and very true. But the Bodhisattva uses it for charity, and therefore is protected by his own pathway. Just a few of those stories are in there. There was quite a lot to reflect upon, all of which have a moral thread, and they all carry the same spine, the same scaffold through the whole thread of the story, which is this how we respond to suffering and how we transform, or whether we are or not. And they're looking at the way that we respond and react. So this is a time for sharing and reflecting. It's good. Then you can find yourself just processing and thinking out loud without judgment. It doesn't have to be grand. It can just be what becomes clear to you. Grace, do you mind reminding me, just before we began this session?
Yeah.
It was a very interesting. Would you mind just recapping? Do you mind, Artung? Thank you so much. You were a very young and nimble member of the group. Okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
okay. Bante. Oh, you need to repeat that just now.
Well, along those lines,
okay,
not word for word.
Okay. No, I was thinking about impermanence. And impermanence in that we humans, if we rely on just focusing on impermanence, how do we live our life here? 70, 80 years of a lifetime. So I was thinking about those people with mental problems, and as a human being, we cannot isolate ourselves. We need to move around, to be with people, so we can avoid, we can live a healthy life, really, what is called, that you don't suffer from mental illness, So actually it takes a lot of effort and wisdom too, in order to exist as a human being and coexist with impermanence. And then that is for our well-being, for all our well-being, I mean, humans. So actually it's a difficult thing to do. It's not easy. So rather than staying isolated, reserved, we don't go out and mix. But if you do that, I'm sure at the end of the day, you may have some of these mental problems, right?
Yeah.
So the coexistence with impermanence, like if impermanent, you say, after all we're impermanent, we just let it be, But I think that is not a wise choice, right? That's what I'm reflecting.
Yeah, it comes down to the wisdom. It's not only being calm and not only being quiet, and it's not only about like staying alone, not at all. So, and if the wisdom, if we're really listening, and our heart, and our life is saying, no, you need to mix, you need to get out, and you ignore that, then you can lead to depression and to anxiety. So, and then it also takes, that the wisdom has told you that's what you need to do, then you have to put it into action as well. Like, so how? How can I meet other people, or who? And in what way, what can we do together that's wholesome, that's going to increase this as well? And that can be a really big choice. Like for me, I didn't ever really see myself going to the Philippines and working with poor people, but that's what happened. That brought out, that wakened up a lot of my Buddha nature through that. Then that was exposing myself to, with an alms bowl in a place that never had that before, for example. So, but that was what my inner wisdom was saying, yeah, do it, look, it's just like the Thailand, it's just like Burma, you can do it will work. I was like, I don't know. And so sometimes you have to go into the unknown, and not in just those small circles. So it takes courage and creativity to try the unknown and try the new. I was remembering when you were telling that story about the staying in your shell. I was remembering the life liberation. I got a tortoise and it wouldn't come out its shell. I didn't even know, is it dead? And I really thought, because I think we had one time and we were in it just floated. It was probably dead on one of the old ones. So I was like, oh no, I've got a dead one, well, this is life liberation, I've got a dead tortoise. And I had to I tried a few things, I went, because tiny little gabber, and then I dipped it in the water, the head, and then I tried it again, and after a few times it suddenly peeked out like that. Like, what? I said, all right, I'm not a chef, I'm not a restaurant. I said, it's a monk, friend, and then it came out. And then every time it started to come out, wow.
His instincts.
Yeah, so we're like that. We're like that often, is we lock ourselves in the shell and we don't come out. And we're afraid to get hurt. And often it's a nonsense, it's really not true. I used to see it in the Philippines, in the supermarkets, often the girls who work there, and they often have 40 girls, multiple, much more than they need. But when I go in there, I walk in looking like this, they're like, oh no, and they run away. They actually hide, they're hiding, pretending to do the shells, because they're we're going to have to speak English, and I don't want to speak English, I haven't done that since school. And then, so they will just try to make you go away. You go, hey, I want to buy some batteries. They go, no. And I go, no, I want to buy some batteries. And they go, no, we don't have any. I go, yeah, they're behind you. No. They're so shy. And it's really killing them. And then you meet people who are successful, and you really see what they've done. They've learned to go forward, and they've learned to meet, say hello, and not run away. So for them, it's going to be a big job to turn that around, and then go up through the levels of getting hurt or trying, and often it hurts much more to stay closed. Yeah. And ultimately, if you really can get joyful full time, then you've really done it. You've really conquered your fears. Yeah. There's a phrase that I used to use when I was first in Sydney. that the lion gets its fierceness from your fear. And I went, I thought, what am I afraid of? I'm afraid of, these big magazines and names. And I went right in, hello, and had to introduce myself. And it really showed me the truth in that. What makes people shy, do you think? What makes people shy? What do you think causes people to?
Probably, maybe it's their upbringing. When we are children, we are taught the norms, whatever. So from there you get the sort of, you pick it up there. Or maybe myself, I was a very young age. I already no choice. I have to do things on my own. So I sort of, maybe that instinct in me, your natural instinct, that sort of, you look at people maybe from experience, or you watch, you're observant, so maybe you can pick up faster than those that don't go out and experience it on their own. I mean, maybe that could be the reason.
Did you see this with the story of the lake and the salt? Did you see that kind of parallel? That expanded your mind?
Yes.
Has anyone else had a suffering experience that, by experiencing the way that they responded, really broadened their mind? It really opened them up. Has anyone else got a story or experience they'd like to share about those kind of experiences, or something that was difficult, and when you faced it, it made you grow, it made you more strong through the way that you handled it? I think COVID reminded me of this, because we had no choice but to stay alone. So, now we have choice. Now we can go out. But that really showed how difficult it is for humans to be isolated and alone a lot of the time.
I remember when we had to sort of quarantine. We don't go out so often in the daytime. So after COVID, it was actually, I was really, I realized that I don't know whether I can still drive at night. So I told Kat, I said, hey, we better take a ride now and see whether we can still drive at night or not.
What, if you're allowed to?
So we both took turns and said, oh, I'm still okay, I can still see. It's okay, nothing happened.
Right. So you didn't get pulled over, you mean,
because we didn't really get out during the night or daytime. We would just stay at home. So for the duration, so I was a bit worried. I said, I don't know whether I can still drive during the night. So that's why we both venture out at night and say, try. Okay, we are still okay.
Yeah.
That was. I think a lot of things, we need our mindfulness, That's very crucial. Mindfulness, like the other day I was asking Ajahn Nandio how to train your mindfulness. But actually, the way is to be mindful of the mindfulness.
Yeah.
right? So if you're not mindful, so in anything or you encounter or any situations, you need to be mindful of your mindfulness. You know, like instead of getting angry or shouting or reacting, we need to have the little space, where we are mindful, in order to be mindful of the situation. So maybe that can alleviate the suffering. You don't get angry, so your suffering will less, I guess.
Or mindfulness, mindful of the unmindfulness, maybe. It's like realizing that it's going on.
Yeah, realizing
That this is a case. This is a wave. Yeah, this is a wave. Or just try to sort of turn the situation into something more productive and more constructive instead of destructive. That's the wisdom part. So the awareness and the mindfulness is just saying this is going on. Don't ignore it. This is important. And then the wisdom has to come. Okay, well, what are our options? What are our choices? Including as many as possible, which is the prudence makes the right choice. Is the unmindfulness that just grabs the worst choice, like as you said, including those ones like fighting or flying away or